Right. Building on to what we have already discussed in the first two lessons, and now we are going to look at how to assess and respond effectively to customer requests. It's one thing to give our customers the services they expect or the products they expect. It's another thing to be able to satisfy them on other requests that they might have, because it's hard to really satisfy everyone with one product. Sometimes certain people have got special needs, and those special needs will require those particular clients to be treated different from others. There are many special needs that could be there. It could be boundaries in terms of language, it could be boundaries in terms of disability, and so forth. So you'll see half the time when you're creating any solutions, any systems, and everything, we're always assuming that everyone has got normal eyesight. We're always assuming that everyone's senses work perfectly, but that's not true. So at the end of the day, you'll find out that your program, which mainly depends on sounds, is actually being used also by deaf people. So now you have to find a solution to that in making sure that those people are able to use your particular solution. And if they're deaf, obviously it means hearing is out of question. So now we have to look at other solutions, which could be sight. So now we have to look at making sure that there is an option for this particular piece of equipment to communicate with the clients in writing and not using sounds. Anyway, so when you have this assessing and responding effectively to customer requests, you have to follow certain things, obviously. The first one is to ensure that the information obtained is sufficient, relevant, and valid in order for the request for support to be investigated. Sometimes you receive calls from a client or a potential client for that matter. They might have seen or bought your products, and you realize that they are totally off topic in as far as what they are talking about is concerned. So you would have to make sure that you only spend time responding to clients that are on what you can actually provide. If, for example, you are an internet service providing company, like your MTN, Vodacom, and so forth. Then someone comes in and then starts complaining about something that has to do with food, for example. You are not in that business. There's nothing you can do about that, because as far as we're concerned, you are not in the food industry. You are in the telecommunications industry. So it will be very important for you to really see whatever information that they're giving to you is sufficient for you to really pinpoint what exactly they need from you. Is it an update on your app? Is it something that totally falls out of your jurisdiction? If it's something like that, or something, sometimes clients can actually require you to do things which are illegal. You could receive calls from someone telling you, I do not trust my husband. Since you are the internet service provider, please trace him using his phone and tell me where he is. That is actually illegal under the laws of South Africa. So you can't disclose information about another customer to another customer unless if it's a police investigation underway, of which it will follow its own routes, and you don't even need to worry about that one. But normally it would make sense. Moment a wife is in distress that they can't find their husband and everything like that, the internet service providing company should just be able to say, wow, we just realized that they are surfing the internet from such and such a place, and you can go and search for them. That would have been a perfect world, I guess, but that's not how things work. We need to secure our information, because someone can call in pretending to be someone who's close to you, yet they are not, and they actually want to pinpoint where you are so that they can cause harm to you. That's why it's important to safeguard people's private information. We talked about it in the last module about how important it is to make sure that whatever data we have about our customers is always kept private and is only shared only in the interest of providing services to them, and never in the interest of anyone else except that particular customer. Another thing we need to have is the relevancy, which I've already explained. You need to see if this is covered in your particular jurisdiction. There are certain things that you cannot do. There are certain things you should not even do. For example, if you're in the food industry and you have no license to sell alcohol, and then you realize a lot of your customers are requesting for alcohol whenever they come to eat at your place, it is obvious at that point. Maybe I should just add a lot of alcohol bottles to whatever we are buying. That's true. But you need a license for that. So always make sure that this is relevant to you, because when you are being sued, your customers won't come in and pay for you, because it's not their business to make sure that you have a license to sell alcohol. Their business is to request for alcohol and buy it and drink it. When you are in trouble because of doing that, it's never their business. So now you have to deal with that alone. So make sure that whatever request that you are being given is what is relevant, and is also valid, obviously, because some requests are just, totally invalid, because they totally do not even cover what we are trying to do. So all these things, remember, will make you then be able to move on to the next step, which is called the request for support investigation. So once someone requests for something, if it's something that you can do, you then you then launch an investigation into it over what then could be done about it. And then that's company resources being used. You could be sending a technical person to check out on the ground what's happening and so forth. All that means time is being used, it means energy is being used, and that should only be done for things that are relevant, things that are valid, and things that you have sufficient information about. Next thing that we need to realize is that in our assessment of all these things, the assessment should be able to analyze support records to ensure that agreed levels of support are met. So once we have agreed for the request for support to be investigated, now we have realized that these are the things that need to be done. In that investigation, we need to make sure that we analyze and go through all the support records and understand what was agreed in the first place that we should be able to do for this client. If it's an internet service provision company, what speed of internet is it? Because not all internets are made the same. Fiber optic cables, like we learned in the other lesson, are the fastest. And then you also find that there is things such as your LTE connections, such as your phones, for example, they are usually the slowest. And then they also have different context in which they are suitable for. Obviously, in as much as fiber optic cables is good, as fiber optic connection is good, it means you can move around with it. So if you want to go to the mall and still be connected, you can be moving around with a cable so that you are connected to the fast internet. That's where your cell phone comes into play, but now you sacrifice speed for that. Now, you don't want someone who bought a wireless connection to now want to have connections which are fast as the fiber optic connection. So once we look into our support records, we'll be able to realize, no, what is expected of us is this type of speed. This client is complaining because they want a speed bigger than this speed. That actually means this is out of context, and we're able to deal with that client accordingly. Now, the next thing, we should also make sure that the assessment ensures that the relevant persons are promptly and clearly informed the results of the assessment following the organizational procedures. We did talk about this earlier on the practical aspect of all these requests for support, to say, once you are called out, for example, as an IT support person, and you're called out and go on the ground and you start investigating, you realize that there are a lot of people who might not really know what you are doing on the ground, but those people are also the ones at the front line responding to the clients. So they need to be informed over what is happening, if there will be a delay in the solution, if the problem is bigger than what you signed up for, and all those things, so that at least they can find alternatives, and also so that they don't start organizing protests against your company, or even taking you to court for you to compensate for whatever losses they could have gone through after that particular loss of service without warning. So all those things you need to make sure that you communicate, so that we at least give people some comfort, even though we know already they are not happy by the fact that they are calling us requesting for services. Now, the next thing is that the response to the customer's request ensures that the support actions are promptly initiated to resolve the fault the fault that has been identified in accordance with agreed procedures. There are always ways in which we should solve any problem. And once the fault is then reported to us, it is then important that we make sure that all the actions that are supposed to be taken are taken promptly, meaning they're done on time. The moment we get informed of a fault in one of your services, we should already be on the ground making sure that that fault is sorted, because every moment you should realize that our services are down. It therefore means that our competition can come and swoop in and take over from whatever we do. So it is of utmost importance to make sure that whatever we agreed with the client, we always are able to give that to the client, because it's easy to give excuses. It's easy to be right. There could be things that are way beyond your control that are causing the services to be down. But at the end of the day, your client is not looking for stories. They're not looking for good excuses. What they are looking for are their services to be always working when they need it, when they need them to work. So you should always make sure you as the support team are aware of that and are able to resolve any issues as fast as possible. The next thing is the response to the request ensures that relevant colleagues are informed of any unresolved problems. Again, this is a repetition of a point that you already highlighted upon, to say you don't want your clients always calling and the person answering them having to lie, or sometimes assuming certain things without knowing and stuff like that. Communication is of utmost importance. So make sure that your colleagues know exactly where the issues are. If there are things that need to be resolved that have not been resolved, make sure that your colleagues are aware of that so that they resolve those things accordingly, so that we don't end up having problems on your hands. The response should ensure that the support is provided within agreed timescales. Time is always important. Your clients normally never want to ever have the services that they paid for not working at any particular second. So any moment that they call you to say that their services are down is a moment that is not good. So the faster, the better. But there are also agreed timeframes. There are things, like we said, which are beyond your control. They could be storms, they could be floods, they could be theft, and so forth. All these things can determine that it can end up having your services being down. So once you have all those in place, it's then important for you to then tell your clients, whenever you have a problem, we are able to address the problems within this particular time. And that within that stipulated time, your clients should always know that you are able to resolve those particular problems. And the last thing is that the response should ensure that the support records are complete, accurate, and up to date. Whenever you complete any support at any site with any client, there is always records that are kept, because you want to make sure that if a problem happens today, if it happens tomorrow, we shouldn't spend 10 hours investigating the same problem, because we already know of that problem and what caused it last time. That will save us a lot of time. For example, there are certain places which are prone to theft of cables. So once you hear that that in that area, the offices that are situated in that area, suddenly your services are down and your services have to do with cables and stuff, part of that is looking into the support records. You see the last time you were called to that place, or maybe the last 10 times you have been called to that place when the services were down, it was actually because of cable theft. Now you don't have to waste time even going there to see if cable has been theft and then coming back to collect cable or other cables and stuff. You can actually just go to your warehouse, already carry your cables there, and already get on the ground running. You might find out that maybe this time it's not the same problem, but if it's the same problem, you would actually be able to solve that problem within record times without issues. And also, this could actually help in the decision making of your company. You can now be able to encourage your bosses to invest more in security, to invest more in certain solutions that will not need cables and so forth, so that you don't end up having to resolve the same problem time and time again. So that's it about how to assess and respond effectively to customer requests. Again, if you have any questions, always feel free to communicate with me, as we have been doing all along. Let's see each other on the next lesson.